we get into the meat and potatoes of what's going on with you right now. So you said you started running and and I know we go to the same park, Ostenango and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So you started running to a light post and then you started going beyond that and so on. So is it a whole new community that you're a part of with the running?
It is. And I actually started knowing that I hated running on the road so much. And I was just in a point in my life where, I'd gone through a pretty bad breakup about a year ago. And it was just one of those things where I wanted to hide out in the woods. I spent most of the summer up in the Adirondacks by myself.
Oh, beautiful
Um,
place.
Oh, I love it, except I broke my foot and ankle up there on a solo hike, which wasn't great.
Oh
But
man,
um,
listen, man, you're an extremist. I absolutely love it. I love it. I don't love that you broke your ankle. That's not what I mean to say. That's morbid. I just mean I love that you do things like hiking by yourself. That's great. But go ahead, though. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, and for me, it was just like, okay, like what's gonna clear my mind at this point? What's gonna make me stronger? And there was a really cool trail running group in our area. It's the Bats Trail Running Group. And I just one day showed up there and it's been history ever since. And I remember the first time I actually went afterwards, a couple of the people of that group said, hey, you want to go grab pizza and drinks with us? And I was like, okay. Because I almost had a transition in my life back here because I was living almost an hour away, kind of going back and forth. So I lost some friends at my own doing, and it was like, okay, how do I meet new people? So I joined this group, had pizza, and it's funny because starting next week I'm actually going to be roommates with one of the people
Oh wow.
that I
Okay.
met from showing up to the group. So,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's kind of where my love of trail running came in. And it's nice because we take little trips, like we'll do a trailgate, we went up to the Adirondacks together, we do races and things like that together, which ends up like, okay, we'll get an Airbnb, we'll race, and then we'll sit down, have craft beer, and eat food.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, I do want to do more. I do want to do more running and hiking and things like that because the thing is the way I see it, and once I understood a little bit about how to maintain happiness, because myself, and go into my past, and I have covered it before in previous podcasts. I have suffered from anxiety and depression throughout most of my life because I never understood balance.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I never understood balance, and I never really understood how to achieve it. And I did have people in my life who tried to teach me those lessons, but maybe they didn't. Maybe I wasn't willing to accept it, or I
Right.
wasn't able to absorb it in the way they were teaching it. But I'm not going to
Mm-hmm.
try to convince people that I didn't have people who were looking out for me, or people who were giving me weren't raising me right and so on. I do have a lovely mother and so on and things like that. So, but I just couldn't grasp the concept of balance. And in my mind, when you talk about doing these trail runnings and things like that, I can kill so many birds with one stone when you talk about doing something like that, because you can get your exercise in, you can
Yep.
get your sunlight in, which the sun is great for boosting your mood because it helps you create vitamin D under your skin. And then
Mm-hmm.
also, just that fresh air, man. That unplugging. You might be listening to music, but you're not like plugged in really, other than
Right.
focusing on what you're doing.
Yep, exactly. And going back to your point of, having people telling you like it's about balance and things like that and not being ready to accept it, that's, to me, that's all part of growing up.
Yeah.
And I look at it like, kids will come into me from a school counseling standpoint and say, this person said this about me, it's the end of the world and all that. And I remember being in their position, and it's so hard telling them, like, girl, it doesn't matter. Like, it
Yeah.
literally does not matter. You won't even
Yeah.
think about this ever again, But
Yeah.
you have to be at a point in your life where you're like, okay,
Yeah.
I accept this, and and it's a different age for all of us.
It is a different age. That didn't start happening to me until, like, once again, a couple years ago, which I went through. Like, for me personally, I go through a sort of metamorphosis every 5 years myself, where I'm into something else, something different.
Mm-hmm.
And also it's a result of a metamorphosis of my mind and a growth in my mind. And in my mind, that was one of the most lovely, one of the loveliest things that I went through was when I started to not give a crap what other people thought about me. That was when I finally got to that point where I was like, I don't care. And that is why my part of the reason why my life is, on yourself, I can tell my life is so unlike most people's lives, because I'm finally able to be the weirdo that I've always wanted to be.
Yep. I am the biggest, goofiest dork there possibly is. Like, I don't know. I like I said, when people say, how are you doing with the coronavirus? I'm like, I basically live out in the woods with my dog, managing his Instagram account, and so I'm good.
Oh, your dog has an Instagram account? What's the Instagram account for your dog?
What's that?
What's your dog's Instagram account?
Trail Dog Tank.
Trail Dog Tank. Just a Thought vlog will be following Trail Dog Tank pretty soon here. Text me the I'll try to find it, but if I can't find it, text me the link.
Yeah, the dog is way more interesting than I am, but
the dog is an extension of you, okay? But yeah, so that's great. So if I have to, so now you're into trail running and so on. Now we know that's not going to last forever. Okay, we know Kate's going to be into something else pretty soon. Okay.
I hope the trail running sticks around for a while, but I don't know if I'm 80 if I can do it.
No, after a while it starts to wear down on your knees and things like that. Like these aches and pains that I have currently. It does slow me down at times where it comes to work and things like that, which is part of the reason, obviously, that I need to lose weight. But regardless of how much you weigh, if you run enough, the human body isn't made to last forever.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So
one of the reasons I did the trail running over road running is I've got a pretty bad hip flexor injury from MMA, and then the trails are a little bit less of an impact on you. It's weird. You feel totally different when you do it, but then you also have roots and rocks and things like that you trip over and get stuffed up that way. But
yeah, so you might eventually get a couple of lovely scars that you can show off later on.
Oh, I've got a few, yeah.
You're tumbling down a hill or something like that.
Yep, I fall daily.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. You pick yourself right back up and you dust off, right? And you keep going.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So if you, and this is why we talked about it earlier. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna go ahead and encourage you. I think someone like yourself would enjoy volunteer work overseas. Not that there isn't things to do right here in this country, and there aren't people who aren't in need here. Mm-hmm. But what I mean to say is, when you do things, in my opinion, because of how short life is, mm-hmm. when I do things, I wanna kill multiple birds with one stone, so to speak. So when I talk about going overseas to do volunteer work, I'm not saying there aren't people here in America who could use help. I'm saying that I'm also doing that for me because I want to travel and I want to see the world, but I also want to help people. Mm-hmm. I suspect someone like you, like if you went backpacking or something like that overseas in Europe or wherever the case is, or Africa or whatever the case is, you might enjoy that.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think, that's a good point that you brought up is that something that I now try to incorporate is how can I help people with these goals that I'm doing? And this year, actually, I teamed up with Team in Training to do my first triathlon and raise money for Leukemia and Lymphoma Society and, get their message out. And unfortunately, my triathlon was canceled. And then it was like, okay, well, I'm doing the 40 miler. So that's kind of up for it. And then that got canceled. And I'm like, I'm still going to run the 40 miles. And for me, I think going forward, that's what I always look at. It's like, okay, if I say down the road, I go and do a race out in Colorado, what can I do to help other people, whether that's push themselves out of their comfort zone and do something cool, whether it's raise money for something. Ultimately, that's where I'd love to get in my life, is where I can kind of do the things that I love to do, but then giving back. That's always my goal. How can I?
No, absolutely. I think ultimately, have you, being in counseling and so on, you've heard of self-actualization as a concept?
Yep.
Which is, and please stop me if I'm wrong and so on, but it's essentially reaching that state of happiness in general. Mm-hmm. That only, I think maybe 1% of the human race reaches.
Yeah.
According to statistics.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's sort of like just feeling like all your goals in life, or not all of them, but for the most part, you feel like you're living your best life in a summary.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think go ahead.
It's weird because you see it, and I hate going back to social media all the time, but everyone's like, oh, living my best life. And it's like, are you? And
Yeah.
that's always a question that I ask myself. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, so what's that going to look like in 5 years? And like you said, what's next? What's next?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how you can sort of approach or reach self-actualization
Hmm.
without living for something greater than yourself.
Right.
Living for other people or for the planet or for animals, for instance. I know I sound I probably sound a bit like a hippie, and maybe I am. Okay, which it is what it is if I'm a hippie, but um, I don't know how you can get to self-actualization without leaving a legacy of some kind or a positive impact on some kind, like realizing that the world and human beings in general um, are sort of dominoes, and you sort
Exactly.
of can try to like push on one of them and hopefully knock the rest down, huh?
Hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For
So I
sure.
don't know how you can get to that without, and I mean, even with yourself, you're doing that on a daily basis, being a counselor, just in your job itself, you're killing multiple birds with one stone.
Hmm.
You're being a counselor and you're working and so on, but you're also impacting these kids in a positive way that may change the course of their lives just in that mode, just in being what you do for a living.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
always try to make them aware too of, some of the goals and things I do outside of school, just so they can see, like, they can push themselves too. I know the rumor got around fast when I first got the job at Owego that I was an MMA fighter. So all the kids are like trying to YouTube
Oh, they
and
love
find
that.
fights and things like that. And then for
Yeah.
me, that's, do I want them to see me slip in my own blood and break my nose? No. But then it's also like they know, like, okay, my school counselor worked really hard and went after something that she really wanted to do.
Yeah, and then we can do the same because we one of the things that we teach these children is that the same lessons that they taught us when we were little kids
Yep.
is that you are the future, and we want them to believe in themselves. We want them to believe that they can do anything they want to do.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, and that's what's pivotal about a counselor. A counselor, that's your role.
Hmm.
That's your role there to help guide them through and sort of help them believe in themselves and so on. Because I think before you can even achieve anything, you have to believe you can achieve something. You know what I'm saying? You can't go into it thinking, I don't know if I can do it, and then do it. It doesn't work that way.
Right. Yeah. And even if you don't think you can do something, again, like I said with the running, you pick a spot where it's like, I know I can get to that point. And that's with any goal. It's like, okay, I know I can do this. And then you get to that point and then it's like, okay, the second time, can I push myself a little bit more? And for me, that even goes with things that aren't, like a physical goal. It goes for, your mindset and things like that. Just when you think, your anxiety is going to take over, or the depression is going to take over, can you figure something out that's outside your comfort zone to get through that?
Yeah. No, yeah, exactly. So you said you create coping mechanisms and things like that for anxiety and depression, and I do agree with you. It's like something that you got to maintain. It's kind of like how every single day you have to get up and brush your teeth, otherwise your teeth are gonna
Right.
become brown. Like you gotta you gotta take care of your mental health. You gotta keep doing things so that to stave off that feeling. And a lot of us, more people than people realize who suffer from anxiety and depression. They just don't use those words for it for some reason. I think there's still that stigma.
Yep. Yep. For sure. It wasn't until, I was in my 20s that they actually diagnosed me with that. And, you know, a lot of times I was just told, like, oh, she's a really sensitive kid. She worries a lot and things like that. And I mean, I had full on OCD, like, couldn't leave the house until I checked to make sure the stove burners were off, and I locked every door and did that 6 times. So it was like, no, this is a little bit more than just worrying.
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but it's just ultimately I found this and I did use it in a couple of videos at the beginning of the channel,
Hmm.
and I realized when I started this channel, I had a message that I wanted to share with the world, one that I discovered myself. And my first thought process when I found this message was I want to tell everybody. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because I see so many people suffering from some of the same issues that you suffered from or that I suffered from,
Yeah.
with no real way of solving the issue or any understanding of how to solve the issue at all. And
Mhm.
you know, I was tired of seeing people not even talking about mental health or
Yeah.
you know, anxiety and depression in general in public, like because people have this stigma like you're weak because you have these issues. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And so when I started the channel originally, I had found this I found this cartoon. I found a lot of different things. Like I started doing my own research into psychology and things like that.
Mhm.
But I found this little cartoon called the Mental Health All Stars, a cartoon drawing. And it sort of showed like a little chart, little character for different things like meditation, sleep, exercise, healthy diet. Like there was a mini superhero for each one of those things. And
Mhm.
essentially, the message I got from it was if you do a little bit of every one of these things and schedule it into your life, which schedule is part of it, your
Yeah.
routine schedule is part of your life, then you can sort of stave off the void, which is what I call that despair and that hopelessness and that unhappiness that a lot of us feel. Please search on YouTube for Just a Thought Vlog and follow us on social media.